What happens when an infantry division, men trained to fight in jungles and mountains, suddenly finds itself facing warships in the darkness of the sea? On a quiet night in December 1944, along the shattered waterfront of Ormoc Bay in the Philippines, a group of American soldiers prepared to do something no infantry unit had ever done before. They were about to fight the Imperial Japanese Navy using weapons designed to destroy tanks, and within less than 20 minutes, the sea in front of them would be burning. At 2300 hours on December 11, 1944, Corporal James Mackenzie crouched behind a shattered concrete wall on the Ormoc waterfront. The bay in front of him was almost perfectly still, the water dark enough to swallow sound itself. Out there, barely visible, shapes were moving slowly across the surface. 3 of them. Mackenzie was 32 years old and had been in combat barely 2 months. He had fought through jungle hills and shattered towns, but he had never fought a ship in his life. In fact, he was not supposed to be watching the sea at all. He belonged to the 77th Infantry Division of the United States Army. Infantry divisions fought men on land. They did not fight naval vessels. But on that night in Ormoc Bay, the rules of war were about to bend. The Japanese Imperial Navy had pushed multiple vessels toward Ormoc Bay under cover of darkness. Their mission was desperate but clear: deliver roughly 750 troops to the shore before dawn. Those reinforcements mattered enormously. Japanese forces on the island of Leyte were already collapsing under constant American pressure. Without new soldiers, their defensive line would crumble in the mountains. With reinforcements, the fighting could continue for weeks. Corporal Mackenzie did not know the larger strategic picture. He understood only the simple reality in front of him. If those ships reached the beach tonight, the soldiers unloading from them would be shooting at Americans tomorrow. The 77th Infantry Division had already fought hard for this ground. They had landed on Leyte only days earlier and pushed more than 20 miles through prepared enemy defenses to capture the ruined port city of Ormoc. But every night the Japanese tried to push reinforcements through the bay. Normally, stopping ships was the Navy's job. Destroyers and patrol boats hunted enemy transports at sea. Infantry divisions did not sink ships. Yet the 77th possessed one unusual weapon along the waterfront that night: M10 tank destroyers. These vehicles were designed to destroy German tanks in Europe. Each carried a powerful 3-inch gun mounted in an open-top turret on a tracked chassis. Against armored vehicles, the weapon could destroy targets at distances close to 1,000 yards. Against ships, nobody knew what would happen. No one had ever tried. The men of the 77th Infantry Division were already known for doing things differently. They were one of the oldest divisions in the United States Army. The average soldier was 32 years old. Other units joked about them, calling them the old bastards. The name stuck. Japanese soldiers developed a very different reputation for them. Across the Pacific War, American forces captured roughly 2% of the Japanese troops they fought. The 77th captured far fewer. Over the course of the war, they killed more than 43,000 enemy soldiers and captured fewer than 400. Their commander, Major General Andrew Davis Bruce, believed in mathematics more than heroics. His philosophy was simple: apply overwhelming firepower in the right place until the enemy ceases to exist as a threat. When the division captured Ormoc on December 10th, the town was already reduced to rubble and smoke. But the Japanese still needed that harbor. It was their last working supply port on the western coast of Leyte. So every night, barges and transports attempted to slip into the bay carrying reinforcements. The M10 tank destroyers were positioned along the waterfront to support infantry operations against bunkers and machine gun nests. Engaging naval targets was not written in any manual, but reality rarely follows manuals. As the dark shapes in the water grew larger, the American crews prepared their guns. The plan was simple: track the ships, Wait for illumination. Fire on command. At exactly midnight, the darkness exploded into light. An illumination flare fired from an infantry mortar rose high above Ormoc Bay and burst into a brilliant white glow. For half a minute, the entire bay became visible, and there it was. A Japanese transport ship had already grounded itself near the beach northwest of Ormoc. Soldiers were pouring down ramps at the bow and stern. Vehicles were beginning to roll onto the sand. The flare would burn for only 30 seconds. 30 seconds to aim, 30 seconds to fire. The first M10 tank destroyer pulled the trigger. The 3-inch armor-piercing shell left the barrel at roughly 2,600 feet per second. It crossed the dark water in barely more than a heartbeat and slammed into the ship near the waterline. The metal plating of the transport was thin. The shell punched straight through. A violent explosion tore through the interior of the vessel, ripping open the hull and flooding the cargo hold with seawater. The ship immediately began to list. Japanese soldiers froze on the ramps. Inside the vessel, crews scrambled in panic. Another flare rose, lighting the bay again. The tank destroyer fired a second round. This time the shell struck below the waterline near the stern. Flooding accelerated. The ship was already doomed. But the battle was not finished. 4 more Japanese vessels were approaching from the north. They had seen the first transport dying in the water, and they kept coming anyway. 2 aggressive costs. Mortar teams launched new illumination rounds. Anti-aircraft guns rolled into firing positions along the waterfront. Machine guns and artillery joined the fight. An entire infantry division prepared to fight a naval engagement. When the next flare burst overhead, every weapon opened fire. 3-inch tank destroyer guns slammed armor-piercing rounds into the approaching transports. Howitzers fired high-explosive shells into the bay. 40mm anti-aircraft guns tore through wooden barges. The second transport took a direct hit in the bow. The shell exploded among tightly packed troops, killing dozens instantly. The vessel kept moving until artillery fire ripped open its hull. Men began jumping into deep water. Many never reached the shore. The barges tried to scatter across the bay. It made no difference. Anti-aircraft guns shredded them. One barge disintegrated under the barrage. Another snapped apart and sank. The final vessel grounded short of the beach, its soldiers forced into the water under machine gun fire. The entire engagement lasted only 18 minutes. 5 Japanese vessels attacked. 5 were destroyed. Roughly 750 soldiers were killed or drowned. American casualties were 0. For one long second after the guns fell silent, no one spoke. The bay burned under the fading light of dying flares, and everyone understood the same thing. Nothing else was coming through that night. General Andrew Bruce received the report shortly afterward. 5 vessels destroyed, 0 American losses. For the Japanese command, the consequences were devastating. Ormoc Bay was their last major port on the island of Leyte. For weeks they had pushed reinforcements through the harbor, despite constant attacks from American aircraft and naval forces. Now the shoreline itself had become a fortress. Every ship entering the bay would face guns positioned on land. The Japanese tried again the following night. 2 barges approached. Both were destroyed within minutes. They tried once more the night after that with a larger transport carrying hundreds of troops. It was sunk even faster. Within 3 nights, the mathematics became impossible. More than 1,000 Japanese soldiers had died attempting to reach the shore. No reinforcements arrived. The Japanese forces fighting in the mountains west of Ormoc were now cut off from supplies and replacements. Over the following weeks, the 77th Infantry Division pushed steadily north, clearing town after town until American forces secured the island of Leyte. After the war, investigators examined the wrecks in Ormoc Bay. They confirmed something remarkable. The 77th Infantry Division had destroyed multiple Japanese ships using M10 tank destroyers firing from shore positions. It remains the only confirmed case during the entire Second World War where armored fighting vehicles sank naval vessels in combat. One night, one place, never repeated. The story of Ormoc Bay became a quiet reminder of a simple truth about war. Necessity is the mother of invention. Sometimes that invention is brilliant, and sometimes it is simply soldiers using the weapons they have in ways no one ever expected. If you had been standing on that dark waterfront watching those ships approach, which moment would have stayed with you the most? Was it the first flare lighting the bay, the tank destroyer firing at a ship, or the realization that an infantry division had just fought a naval battle? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy uncovering strange, little-known moments from history like this one, subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories from the Second World War. Because sometimes the strangest weapons and the strangest battles turn out to be real. Which part of this story stayed with you?